anyways, what we're going to end up working on today is finishing up this little target box. As you can see, I left it clamped. I put braces on it just to make sure everything stayed square in 45 degrees, and that way everything's still square and everything on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, since I don't need these clamps anymore on here, the glue's already dried, we'll go ahead and release them, take them off, and set them off to the side because I don't need them anymore. All right, now, one of the questions is, what am I going to use when I'm taking off these braces and that? The only reason I put these on here is so it actually stays square while the glue dried and everything. So really, all I'm essentially really going to do is just peel it off with my hands. And you see how easy these come off. Just don't have to break it or, you know, really be crazy with it and go nuts. I just peeled it off with my hands, and then in order to get the nails out, I have a pair of side cuts, or you guys most likely will call them pliers, but side cuts. And then I have a pair of pliers. So what I'm going to do is just gently squeeze, not too hard to where I'm going to actually break the nail, and I just turn it off to the side. I'm able to pull the nail out. So I'm going to use a pair of pliers just to pull the nails out because I don't need them in there anymore. So I just squeeze and then twist off to the side to get these nails out. They don't need to be in here anymore. I just put a nail in it to hold the board and hold it square while the glue dries. But notice I do have my safety glasses on because you don't want to get a nail that goes into your eye. Interesting fact, you only have 15 layers of your eyeball, and if they go through all 15 layers, you can never get back to seeing. So if it goes through all 15 layers, your sight's gone. So, all right, so once again, taking off these corner brackets and everything that I just made sure to make sure it stayed square while it was gluing. So now that it's glued and dried, it's not going to shift or move on me or anything. I did put nails in the side. So I used a pair of pliers and I used my hands just to barely push these off. I mean, they're tiny little nails. So being able just to pry it off with my hand is pretty easy, just to have the board go through it and then pull it off with a pair of pliers afterwards. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this board up so you guys can see this. There's these tiny little holes. If you can see that, there's these tiny little holes in the piece of board right here. That's what's left behind from the head of the nail. So I'm going to fill those because I don't want to see them. So essentially what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a putty knife. This is actually a 5-in-1. So it has 5 different uses in that for it, either cleaning a roller, scraping, maybe chiseling a little bit, open up in a paint can, doing a little bit of caulk work where it's basically just put caulk through a caulk gun, and then instead of using your finger, just take this as an edge and then wipe it across so you get a nice clean edge. So I'm going to use a putty knife, or this is actually called a 5-in-1, but it is a putty knife. And then I'm going to use wood filler. It's all-purpose wood filler. The brand is plastic wood, but it's wood filler or wood putty. So essentially what this does is I just get a little of it onto my putty knife, and I press it down into those holes that are left behind, and just press and wipe and press and wipe. And you don't want to wipe it all the way clean off necessarily. You want it up a little bit so when you sand it, you know, that material is going to be even with it. Because if you push it all the way down, it's going to shrink and it's going to get sucked in, so it's not going to be the same flat surface as what your material is. So just pressing in, leaving a little bit on top. I'm going to have to sand it off later just to make it a nice clean edge. Also prevents moisture and that kind of stuff getting into the wood, and then, you know, when metal gets wet or has moisture in contact with it, things tend to rust. So you don't want the nail to rust and then that rust get all over the wood and everything, and then just doesn't look nice, and you know, it's not going to hurt the structural integrity of it or anything. It's just you're going to have rust dripping down the side of your box. So I'm just filling the holes with wood putty or wood fillers. Same thing, wood filler, wood putty. Know that, so I'll take the other side off the next time I have my materials and processing class. So essentially, just to sum it up, pulled these off, just barely twisted them off with my hands. Use either side snips or a pair of pliers just to pull the nails out. And then I used wood filler or wood putty and a putty knife in order to push the wood putty back down into the wood.